Coming up next on the Jeff Crilley Show, we all know the famous story about how Blockbuster truly didn't see the juggernaut that would be Netflix. And we know about Kodak not fully realizing the potential of digital photography. Well, how do you stay one step ahead of your competition when it comes to technology? That's next.
Many are predicting that the worst is yet to come, which is unfortunate, said one person here. Until now, they've enjoyed the reputation of being the nation's icebox.
Watched a burglar in his home this morning by webcam.
As a journalist of over 25 years, stories are what make my world turn.
Reporting live from the Dallas newsroom tonight, Jeff Crilley, Fox 4 News.
But in 2008, I took the jump from my familiar life and started a PR firm from my home.
We're talking about anyone with a camcorder like the one I'm using becomes a television network.
We started slowly growing the company, and we now have over 100 clients, and we've branched into the world of live digital broadcasting. I now own 8 different TV studios and have a huge team. And the stories that I now get to share are sometimes the most important of my life. Life has a funny way of coming around full circle. This is the Jeff Crilley Show.
Well, technology is just racing ahead, so much so that if you have last year's iPhone, you already feel outdated. How do you stay one step ahead of the competition when it comes to technology? To talk about that today, Ty Harmon, he is the founder of To The Edge. Thanks for coming on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. I appreciate you letting me speak today.
Absolutely. So you're a visionary and you're always kind of looking into the future saying, in this industry, how do we help our clients stay one step ahead? Mm-hmm. Is that right?
Absolutely. I think, the world is changing so incredibly fast, whether it's technology or regulatory trends or even unexpected things like COVID. There's always these significant events that cause a shift in direction of businesses. Some businesses are very susceptible to these changes, and others are a little bit more protected, but all are affected in some shape or fashion.
Well, I have to believe you were very busy this past year because COVID made us all have to embrace technology, even some stodgy companies that were kind of stuck in the Stone Age, right?
It was. I think like many of companies, big and small, there was a little bit of what we call a tactical pause to figure out what was going on, what were the implications associated with COVID-19. And then as people began their footing about how do we address this systemically, we began to be very busy in terms of looking at UV systems to disinfect both PPP as well as medical devices and equipment to figure out ways of doing COVID testing more efficiently and effectively. And then ultimately, as we exited the year, people were trying to figure out, how do I return my workforce? How do I look at the vaccination? What kind of opportunities has this created from an omni-channel or e-commerce perspective, as all of us got all those packages delivered to us? And so obviously, we started seeing the ramifications of COVID and the risks and opportunities, and that has spurred a tremendous amount of activity as we've entered into this new year.
Absolutely. Well, there's a great overview video that we'd like to share with you now.
Today's business environment is rapidly evolving. Fueled by innovation and emerging technologies, new competitors quickly arise to challenge market leaders. Your company recognizes the need to respond to this changing landscape, but if you are like most, obstacles limit your organizational agility. Business operational tempo, limited resources, and increasing cost pressures all conspire to prevent progress and blunt meaningful change. What could you achieve by gaining a new perspective and overcoming those innovation constraints? Business growth, market disruption, sustained competitive advantage. To The Edge can partner with your organization to provide proprietary software and subject matter experts that enable you to rapidly identify, test, and drive adoption of new capabilities, all done at tremendous speed with a razor-sharp focus on delivering business results. We amplify and expand your organizational intelligence to explore new opportunities and prioritize them based on the greatest business impact. Our research platform then instantly identifies, assesses, and matches over 15,000 global vendors to your unique business, market, and regulatory needs, expanding not just the reach of your ideas, but the ability for you to execute them at scale. And our agile experimentation process allows you to quickly test, assess, and acquire new capabilities with knowledge, increasing your business impact and reducing your risk. To the Edge empowers you to rapidly explore new opportunities, identify solutions, and conduct experiments that drive greater adoption, all within 90 days. Broader insights, greater organizational agility, better business outcomes. That's how you achieve sustained competitive advantage. That's To the Edge.
Wow, very impressive. Tell me, we were talking off camera about the idea of using drones to deliver vital organs.
Well, it's just that's where we're leading to, right? And so I think about any new technology that you're looking to implement or deploy. There's a multitude of issues that you have to address. There's obviously the technology of, is the drone fast enough? Is how does it take off? Does it carry enough? Regulatory, is the FAA going to allow this to happen, and those types of things, as well as just thinking about the safety and the business model implications of drones as well. And so, yeah, that's a very fascinating project that has a long ways to go. I don't want to mislead our viewers that drones are going to be doing things tomorrow, but taking those incremental steps to develop the capabilities, the regulatory and the business model activities is the journey we're on today.
Yeah. Who are some of your heroes? I mean, I think about people like Elon Musk. It seems like he's always looking into the future.
Yeah, I mean, so clearly we want to look at, for me personally, I have more military heroes in terms of what they did. My grandfather was in Patton's division. I went into the Army as a tanker because of that. And so I think bold risk takers, the folks that were able to push through boundaries, that didn't really listen to the people who said no, and that said maybe, and let's go out and attack this. And so, many military leaders, Eisenhower, MacArthur, Patton, Blackjack Pershing, those types of folks that really helped revolutionize the kind of military model.
Sure.
And so those are some of the people that I really looked up to as a kid. And that's one of the reasons that I ultimately went to West Point.
Outstanding. So let's talk about, we've got a graphic we want to put up on the
Yeah.
screen. It's a technology readiness graphic. How do you know when you need a company like yours?
Well, I think it's really about, are we moving fast enough to protect ourselves? Do we have business problems where we have to bend the cost curve operationally so that we can stay competitive? We can stay competitive not only within our industry, but more importantly, most of the disruption, as we know, comes from outside of an industry. And so how do I protect myself? You mentioned Elon Musk.
Yeah.
Years ago, would you have ever believed that somebody from outside the industry who had never launched a rocket before in their entire life could take the space launch business from the big major aerospace and defense firms? And today, Starlink is launching multiple satellites almost every month, revolutionary rocket systems that can land on themselves from a booster perspective. And so if space can be disrupted, I think everything on Earth can be disrupted.
Absolutely. We're going to put up on the screen a article you were just written up by the Dallas Business Journal publication, A Startup for Startups. Tell us a little bit more about that feature.
Yeah, so that was really, as that publication was being relaunched, they interviewed us about our role in trying to connect kind of the enterprise demand for innovation with the global supply of innovation. And I think what's important to that is we all know, especially those in the technology space, is that innovation just doesn't happen in Silicon Valley or in Austin, Texas. It happens in every garage across the planet. And with the proliferation of new technologies, the question is, how do you stay on top of that very dynamic global landscape?
Sure.
And so our function is to try to help with those enterprise demands and finding the best technology solutions that can solve that problem, and then going through a rigorous but agile approach to validate that technology, to make sure it can solve the business problem, and ultimately drive things in terms of its capability, its scalability, and reliability. Those are the key elements and questions we answer when we're working with our enterprise clients.
Well, when we think about technology, we think about Silicon Valley, but Texas is building a really strong reputation for technology. In fact, you and I are both fans of Why Texas.
Yeah, for sure.
We're going to put the website up on the screen. You've been with Why Texas now for 4 years?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more about the organization and why you joined.
Well, as I was looking at relocating my company from Atlanta, Georgia, where we founded it, to Texas, one, it was a homecoming for me, as I said before. I grew up outside of Lubbock, Texas, in a small 2A town. For those in Texas, they understand that. And then went off to the military and stayed on the East Coast for 25 years. And as we launched the business, we found that our growth was in the central United States. We were really having a good footprint established in Texas. And so we made the decision to relocate. And as I did that, Ed reached out to me. And I think what's amazing about Why Texas is that for little companies like To The Edge or major like a Hilti or a Toyota and those types of companies, Ed's there to help those organizations become ingrained in the communities, support the communities, and make connections that make them more profitable as well throughout their journey. And for many of their employees, it's also moving from somewhere else to Texas. And so if they can help the companies, they can help their employees make that transition.
Absolutely. And it's a very business-friendly state that we're in.
Very true.
I think you made a good move moving from Georgia. So we only have about a minute left. What thoughts would you like to leave the audience with?
Well, I think, again, if you're looking at the world today and it's moving a little too quick for you, there are ways that you can test new technologies, you can drive adoption of new technologies. You just have to take that first step forward in order to make sure that you are on top of these trends and you're taking action, because those that do not take action will be the blockbusters of tomorrow.
Wow. That's a great way to end this segment. We're going to put the website up so you can get in touch. It's totheedge.com.
Yeah.
Ty, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. And that's it for now. We'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.